Let's get into my recent faves. One of my favorite books recently was The Reappearance of Rachel Price. The concept of it is that the main girl, her mom, actually the main girl's name is Belle. I seriously most of the time forget the main character's name. Belle's mom, Rachel Price, disappeared when she was like 2 years old. 16 years later, these like TV show people are trying to make like a documentary on her family and like the disappearance and just like how weird it is. They found her car like on the side of the road, and Belle, the baby, was in it, and she was like alive and like in the back seat and stuff. There's like all this mystery behind it, and people have like their guesses of like what they think happened, but no one really knows. While they're filming the documentary, Rachel, Belle's mom, reappears while they're filming the documentary. So now the main character, Belle, she's really trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So she starts kind of doing her own documentary type investigation and trying to figure out what is going on, because her mom, that she doesn't even really know because she disappeared when she was 2 years old, has come back again, wearing like the same clothes that she disappeared in, like just like super weird thing happening. It's a very interesting premise, and it's interesting the entire way through, and I think it was just done really well. There is a bit of romance in this. I always love when a book has some romance in it, because I feel like it just really fills out the book. Like it makes it just feel like a big epic story, and I really love that. It also had like family love in it, and like sisterhood. It had really good character growth too. It hit so many of the key points that I look for in a book, and it's just so good. It's not like easily predictable. I love really wanting to know what happened and just being on the edge of my seat trying to figure it out along with the main character. It's so great, and yeah, I really recommend this one. It is just like a once-off book, like standalone. It's a standalone. This next book is, you may know it, The Song of Achilles. It is a really like popular, well-known book. It's like Greek mythology, Achilles and Patroclus, I think that's how you say it. What I knew before I read this book was like, I knew that she had like some really poetic, lyrical, beautiful writing. I knew that. I knew that this book was supposed to be absolutely tragic, that I was gonna cry my eyes out, was what I was told. So this is a retelling with a love story between Achilles and Patroclus. I always think Greek mythology stuff is so interesting because there's like so many ways that people can retell it, and I just think people's interpretations, like I just love reading them. And I am also just really fascinated with Greek mythology. Even if you're not into it though, it's like an epic love story, and it is absolutely sad. Like it will tear at your heart a bit. You will feel so much, which is great because, you know, that is what reading does so well, is it makes us feel things. Achilles and Patroclus meet each other when they're younger, and they have like a friends to lovers slow burn. That's what I can say. It's really amazing because I feel like it feels like such true love when I'm reading it. Like it feels like such genuine, like kind, like just good intentioned love, and it just, I don't know, like it comes like easy. It's like they just like fall into it. Love perseveres, and the end is sad. So warning, the end is sad. I know Greek mythology a little bit, but I don't know it like enough to have known the story. I just kind of knew from like spoilers what other people said. I will not say anything. I just am saying that the end is sad, so just know that. Next we have another one by Madeline Miller. This is Cersei. I actually read this one first because I was so scared to read The Song of Achilles, but Cersei is my favorite. Cersei is so amazing. This book, like I just felt so much like love for Cersei in this book. Cersei, I believe, is a goddess. She was sent to live alone on an island because she did something that upset the gods. She's super cool. She's like a witch. She casts spells. So different ships obviously come up to the island because they're like, what's that? She turns men into pigs sometimes. It shows her character going through so many stages. Like you see her as when she's younger, and she's just kind of like learning about the world and the world that she's living in, and she feels like different from other people. It was just so satisfying like hearing her story, and it just made me love this character so much because everything she goes through and the decisions that she makes, like yeah, she like had a path that she went down for a while that she realized she didn't like, and then she changed it. She just goes through so many character changes throughout it, and then at the end it feels like she's so set in herself in like the best way, and I just like love her story. It's so good. It is so beautiful and like enduring. She's the best. Like, I just love her. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is The Wishing Game. This book was such a nice little surprise because I don't even know what made me pick this up. I think I partly just liked the cover and I wanted to read like a fiction book, and this one seemed really cute from what I had read of it. The main character's name in this is Lucy. When she was younger, she had like a tough home life, and she used to write to this author that she loved that wrote books about Clock Island. The author of the book's name is Jack Masterson. So when she was younger, she literally went to this island. So she's met this guy. It has flashbacks to that, but it takes place at current time, and she's a teacher's aide. There's this one kid at the school who she's really bonded with and she wants to adopt, but she doesn't have like the money or the housing or like so many of the things to do this. So Jack Masterson, he has like this contest all of a sudden. A certain group of people get invited by Jack Masterson to compete on his island in a game where there's like riddles and stuff like that, because Jack is all about the riddles and the rhymes and all that stuff. So Lucy goes to compete. You get to keep like a copy of the new book that he comes out with. All these other like adults, I think it's like 6 people that compete. Lucy joins this group of like 6 or 7 people to compete with each other at Jack Masterson's property, and they're competing to win the rights to the book. The people who are competing, they all have some sort of past with Jack Masterson. This book is incredibly wholesome. It's magical and cute and cozy. There is romance in it, adventure, mystery, like a little fun mystery. It's just such a fun book, and the cover, I like it. This next book is one that I got into, and I'm so happy I got into it because it is amazing. It is so good, and it is Crescent City. I think it did take me like a little bit to get into it, but once I got into it, I was like in. So I read this one, and I also read the second and the third one of this series, and they were all 5 stars. Like, they were all so good. It is fantasy. If you don't know, this is the same author of like Throne of Glass and Akatar. It's definitely a more complex fantasy with a lot of world building, so it takes a little bit to just like know the situation, the setting, and what type of characters there are. I feel like it's partly a romantasy. Like, the romance is such a big part of it, and it's such a big plot in it. You know, I love a good like big plot romance in a fantasy because the stakes are so high, and it's just like there's more stuff going on, so it's like it never gets dull or boring. The main character's name is Bryce, and so Bryce is like a party girl. In this book, it's like, okay, it's fantasy, but it's like it takes place in the modern world. They have like cell phones, there is magic. It's just like, it's so interesting because I feel like I never read, or like I don't often read fantasies where they're so like modern worlds but then fantasy, and especially I wasn't expecting that after reading Akatar and Throne of Glass from this author. I just wasn't expecting this sort of world, and I love it so much. She ends up getting put in charge of solving like this huge mystery of like who stole this horn or something, like this like magical artifact. By getting wrapped up in that, she meets the love interest. There are also like themes of rebellion in this. Like, friendship is definitely a big thing in this. Like, I cried I think multiple times. Like, I was just going through so many different emotions, and that's part of why I loved it, is because I feel like the relationships, like she has a brother too, I thought that was, they like kind of got closer throughout the books. I thought that was really sweet. All like the heartwarming, like wholesome friendship and also romance things are part of my favorite things of this book because they were just done so well. The characters and the relationships felt so well developed, and the world itself was also just really interesting, and it's more and more satisfying the further that you get into the books. On that note, I also did read the entire Throne of Glass series, which if you know this series, it's kind of big. It's pretty decently sized. I started with the Assassin's Blade. That one actually broke me. Like, I was actually crying quite a lot at that one, and it would be like 2-3 days later and I'd just start randomly tearing up thinking about that one. So that's that. I felt like they were all pretty decent. I'm trying to remember which ones were my favorite, but I didn't like love every single one of the books, but I feel like once I got to the end, it was really like the characters that I fell in love with the most. Like, I just loved the characters, and I felt like the entire story to get to the end was just really powerful. It just like it's a lot of time to invest in it. This happens a lot like with this author where there's like a full circle thing. It's like you're never reading things that don't have a purpose. Like, everything ends up having a purpose, and it's just all these like full circle things that are so emotionally impactful. Like they just like make me feel so much in such a good way. The main character in these books, I love her so much, and I love like the side characters too. I just grew to love all of them eventually. Such a good series, such a solid series. I wasn't crazy about every single book, but by the end I was like, I love this, and I was so invested in the characters that I just couldn't stop reading. Next up, Emily Henry came out with a new book called Funny Story, and I thought it was amazing. I definitely want to give it a reread because I feel like I wasn't like, I don't know, you know when you're gonna go through like a patch where it's harder for you to read, and then the books you're reading you feel like you're not fully invested in them. Emily Henry books, I feel like it's easy to like, sometimes it's easy to find like a character or things in the character that you can like relate to. It is really what you can expect from an Emily Henry book, and I feel like it's very on par with like beach read and people we meet on vacation and stuff like that. Like I feel like it's that type of thing. It's not like how, you know, like Happy Place, for example, was a bit more of like, I feel like it was more of like a fiction character story. I definitely feel like this one's like what you'd expect from Emily Henry rom-com sort of thing. The main character in this, Daphne, is engaged to this guy, but then like right before their wedding he ends up cheating on her with his like childhood best friend sort of thing. And then so this is like the beginning, the very beginning like premise setup of the book. She can't even live in that house anymore because like he owns it. So he's like, okay, like you have this long to leave, basically. Awful man. And then that means that the girl that her ex-fiance is now with, she also broke up with her boyfriend, and she's like moving out of his house and moving in with the ex-fiance. Sorry, it's kind of confusing, but basically they swap. Like those people get together, but then she goes to move in with her ex-boyfriend, and then they start up a fake dating situation so that they can like bring each other's dates to the wedding. That's like the end goal, and that's how it ends up happening. I love a good fake dating trope, and I also just love the sort of revenge, the sweet revenge that's in this book. It has some nice like character healing, character growth, and then just like a really exciting and fun to read love story. Absolutely loved it. Great tension, great like moments where I was just like giggling too throughout it, which is really what I look for in a romance, especially in like a rom-com. Now we have come to my last favorite read, which is The Woman by Kristen Hanna. This book is about women in the Vietnam War, and it focuses on the story of one woman. Forgot her name. Okay, wait, it's Frankie. Yes, her name is Frankie, I believe. I think this book like shifted my perspective on war, and like, I don't know, it made it, because I feel like I don't even know, like I don't know how I thought about it much before. It put just perspective behind one individual's experience and like her motivations for why she's doing it, how it changed her life, like what happened throughout it, how she was treated afterward, like all of this like different stuff that, you know, I've never thought about before. She definitely went through a lot. She had a lot of trauma because of the war, because it focuses on like what she goes through when she's there and like her time there. She is just seeing like traumatic injuries, like just crazy stuff all the time, and it really changes her as a person. She makes like friendships that are so strong and just like made out of just the purest love, and like the most like they just help each other out so much, and they just get each other through stuff and support each other, and that was just so beautiful. She goes through a bunch when she's there, and then she comes back and she's like trying to survive in normal life after all of this. It felt like I was almost reading like two books of like before and after, because it was just so different, and it's almost like you can't like, it's almost like I didn't realize like how much it was like changing her when she was in it, and then afterward it's like you see the aftermath of it, and it's like, wow, she is going through it right now. So she definitely did a lot of change as a character throughout the entire book, and by the end I was just so moved by everything, and I just felt like it was just such a powerful story, and I loved it so much, and I would definitely recommend that one to people. I'm not really a historical fiction type of person, but I did really enjoy that one, so it kind of makes me curious about others. I feel like I kind of need to take it in small doses though, because there is a lot of like blood and gore and like just a lot of concepts that are like hard to read about. So that was one thing that I was kind of like, I was feeling a lot of heavy emotions while I was reading it, but I really loved it, and it was just such a good book that I can't not say it was my favorite. Like I can't not say it wasn't, I can't not say I can't exclude it from my faves because it was a favorite. It was like so impactful and so good. I do have an honorable mention too, and it is The Ministry of Time. That book I'm not going to go into too much. It was like a favorite, but I feel like it wasn't like a top favorite. Basically a concept of time travel from people from history coming into the future, and then there's these people who are like coaching them through life, and then this girl gets asked, or she applies for a job where she basically has to coach this like dude from way in the past to live in the present, and it's pretty crazy. There's also a romance that I loved so much. It was really good. So yeah, that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.